working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. President Duterte appealed to the public to give him until the end of the week to allocate funds for the purchase of transistor radios, which will be used for poor students in far-flung areas as schools across the country shift to distance learning. The president said he is eyeing the purchase of transistor radios, which cost around 300 pesos to aid distance learning for students and teachers without access to television, cell phones, computers, and the internet. Let's listen in.
As announced, schools will open on August 24, but there is still no face-to-face sessions until we get a vaccine. Because ang iposta mo dyan, in your desire to resume classes, ang kapalit niyan is really, the COVID is still here. Nandyan pa yung, hindi lang pa umabot pa sa iyo. Instead, we will follow a blended learning approach. Part of this learning strategy is distance and online learning using communications, technology, and digital devices. Now, for the far-flung areas, meron siyang, yun nga ang kawawa dyan is yung, may radyo sana, walang TV, walang cellphone, wala lahat. Ito yung mahirap na kung mayroon na lang sana silang radyo, the lack of communications or how to get through these students. Paski radyo lang. Ang radyo ngayon is hindi naman mahal. Will by 300 sabi ni Secretary Briones. Baka kung magtagal ito talaga, sayang ang panahon, we might buy the radio at 300, maibigay sa lahat ng barangay, maabot ng radyo para naman yung mga mahirap may communication sila sa teacher nila. Even without a face there, as long as you are really interested to learn, ito yung mga mahirap, kaawa naman. We will try to come up with something in the next few days. Maybe before the end of the week, I would be able to look for the money. Wala na tayong pera ngayon. I would look for the money to buy transistor radios to be distributed all throughout the country. We will try to do it. We might not be able to succeed to bring all of it to the barangay level, but we will try. I said, just give me until the end of the week.
Now, he has remained firm in his stand not to allow face-to-face classes unless a vaccine against COVID-19 is available. In the same meeting, Education Secretary Leonor Briones vowed to work closely with local government units to ensure that students obtain learning modules from their respective barangays or villages. She also bared that she had discussed with local officials the government's plan to utilize local radio stations to broadcast lessons for students. The government is also eyeing to tap state-run and private television and radio firms for education purposes. As of mid-May, the government has secured $4.55 billion in foreign loans from multilateral lenders and the commercial markets to boost the government's ongoing COVID-19 response, according to the Department of Finance. The foreign loans were secured from the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and other multilateral banks. Meanwhile, President Duterte has retained the General Community Quarantine or GCQ classification in Metro Manila and reverted Cebu City to enhanced community quarantine until June 30. In a stream meeting late Monday night, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III announced the new community quarantine classifications. The IATF's recommendation to retain, relax, or tighten community quarantines in the country was decided on the basis of case doubling rate of COVID-19 infections and the critical healthcare capacity. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque confirmed that the IATF recommendation has been approved by the President.
Sa mensahe ng ating Pangulo sa taong bayan ngayong gabi, inanunsyo po niya na inaprubahan niya ang rekomendasyon ng IATF para magkaroon ng iba't ibang classification sa iba't ibang lugar ng Pilipinas. Sang-ayon po sa ating Presidente, ang siyudad ng Cebu ay mapapasailalim sa ECQ, Enhanced Community Quarantine. Ang siyudad po ng Talisay sa probinsya ng Cebu ay mapapasailalim sa Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine. Ang Metro Manila at ang mga probinsya na babasahin ko ay mapapasailalim sa General Community Quarantine. Metro Manila, kasama po ang munisipyo ng Pateros, sa Luzon, Region 2, Cagayan, Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, Quirino, Santiago City, Region 3, Aurora, Bataan, Bulacan, Tarlac, Olongapo City, Region 4A, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Rizal, Quezon, Occidental, Mindoro. Sa Visayas na po, Region 7, kasama po ang Bohol, Cebu, Negros Oriental, Siquijor, Mandawi City at Lapu-Lapu City. Sa Mindanao, Zamboanga City and Davao City. Yung iba't iba pang mga probinsya po na hindi ko po nabanggit ay mapapasailalim po sa Modified General Community Quarantine. Ang desisyon po ng IATF na inaproba ng ating Presidente ay nakabase po sa siyensya at sa datos, lalong-lalo na yung case doubling time, yung pagkalat po ng sakit at yung critical care capacity at kinonsideran po ang ekonomiya. Lahat po ng lugar ng Pilipinas ay nasa community quarantine pa rin po. Ibig sabihin, maging homeliners pa rin tayo, manatiling malusog, maghugas ng kamay, magsuot ng masks, at mag-obserba po ng social distancing. Dahil habang wala pa po tayong bakuna, wala pa tayong gamot sa COVID-19, patuloy pong banta ang COVID-19.
Let's go now to the beautiful island of Maldives, where the island has shortened its post-travel quarantine period to 14 days. Joining us from Maldives is Steffi Dewan. Hello, Steffi.
Sunday announced its decision to shorten the mandatory quarantine periods to 14 days for people arriving in Maldives from abroad or traveling to other islands from the capital city of Malé. Undersecretary for Communications at the President's Office, Mabruk Abdul Aziz, confirmed the reversal of the initial decision to mandate a 24-day period for individuals observing home quarantine. Although the standard period for quarantine at facilities is 14 days, the Technical Advisory Group, or TAG, attributed the decision to mandate a 24-day period for home quarantine to ensure accurate antibody testing or serology testing determines whether an individual has developed antibodies against COVID-19 after having been infected with the virus in the past. Most people develop antibodies 9 to 11 days after infections. Acknowledging the difficulties of home quarantine, particularly in islands, Mabruk assured that authorities would collect samples to conduct a PCR test 15 days after quarantine begins and convey results by the 18th day. People under home quarantine are not permitted to leave their homes before receiving their test results. Individuals are only allowed to take quarantine periods at home if their residences fulfill certain requirements. This includes the availability of a separate room in which the person in question may isolate themselves. If a house does not meet the criteria, the individual must be quarantined at the facility. Maldives presently records a total of 2,035 confirmed cases of COVID-19, of which 714 are active cases The country records 1,311 recoveries and 8 deaths. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much, Steffi, for your updates there in the beautiful islands of Maldives. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alma. Reporting live from Maldives. This is Steffi Dihuan, and we'll live in interesting lives.
And the Vietnamese government has protested against China's laying of underwater cables between the outposts in Vietnam's Hoang Sa Paracel Islands. Ralph Vandolph Empire reports from Hanoi, Vietnam.
Vietnam has voiced its objection to China's installment of undersea cables in the former Hoang Sa Paracel archipelago. I quote, Vietnam has sufficient historical evidence and legal grounds affirming its sovereignty over the Hoang Sa and Chuang Sa or Spratly archipelagos in accordance with international law. Unquote. Le Thi Tu Huang, spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, stressed while answering questions about the incident during a regular press conference on Thursday. Hang was referring to two groups of islands administered by Vietnam in the East Vietnam Sea. Any activity conducted in Hoang Sa and Chuang Sa without Vietnam's permission is null and void, she underlined. Relevant countries need to act responsibly and refrain from complicating the situation in the East Vietnam Sea and have to contribute to the maintenance of peace and security in the maritime area, Hang stated. Better News previously reported that a ship named Tian Yi Hai Gong had left Shanghai on May 28 and headed to Vietnam's Hoang Sa. There was no specific information on the management of Tian Yi Hai Gong, the news outlet said, adding it could only confirm that the ship was built in early 2020 and carried a Chinese flag. Satellite images later showed that the vessel placed undersea cables to connect Kai or Tree Island, Bac or North Island, and Phulam Woody Island in Hoang Sa, where many Chinese soldiers are illegally stationed. On June 5, the ship traveled to southwest to the island of Baba or Yagong and Zui Mo, Drummond in the Hoang Sa archipelago. Better News cited three experts as saying that the activity was related to a submarine cable system that China has been operating illicitly in the East Vietnam Sea. The cable system is likely used for military purposes, the experts added. In 2016, Reuters reported that China had installed a cable system connecting Vietnam's Phulam Island and its Hainan province. This is Ralph Vandolph Empire bringing the latest updates here in Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
Malaysians have increased their skills using digital platforms in their day-to-day operations during the pandemic. That and more from our EBC correspondent in Kuala Lumpur, Ruby Tinawin. Hello, Ruby.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For the latest year in Malaysia, COVID-19 has not only accelerated the country's digitalization media, but also increased the skills of Malaysians using digital platforms in their day-to-day operations, said Minister in the Prime Minister's Department Economic Affairs, Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohammed. In his keynote address at the NEC Roland Berger Live Forum, with the topic Accelerating Digital ID to Enable Digital Economy in the New Norm yesterday, he said although the pandemic was a very serious health crisis, it also provided a wonderful unity to move forward to achieve the digital agenda, especially to make the people digitally friendly. Hosted by the NEC Corporation, the forum was participated by NEC Malaysia Managing Director Chong Kai Wood, Evangelist Head of NEC Consulting, Walter Lee, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation Chief Strategy Officer, Datuk Pads Lee Shah Anwar, and Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, Head of Research and Senior Research Fellow, Dr. Shankaran Nambiar. Among the crucial issues discussed were the following: how IT adoption would attract foreign investors to Malaysia, why digital ID matters in the new norm of digital economy, how digital ID impact Malaysia, how to leverage the power of digital ID, and how to use technology to kickstart business. Additionally, Mustafa said during the COVID-19 crisis, the government faced some challenges where some government agencies did not appear to be digital ready. He said these are some lessons learned in moving forward, but the government is determined to make sure that Malaysia fully capitalizes this changing landscape, adding the government hope to be able to get every citizen of Malaysia to be digital ready. Mustafa also said Malaysia is open for business and want to do more to step up the digital agenda, highlighting that the success of the nation depends a lot on how fast the nation adopts the new norm. Meanwhile, Communications and Multimedia Minister Dr. Saifuddin Abdullah said the newly formed Malaysian Digital Economy Task Force will be focusing on three components, namely government policies, economic and social systems, in efforts to promote the country's digital economy. On the first component, where the government is concerned, he told reporters during his first official visit to the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation here yesterday that the ministry will have a closer look at e-government because this is a big issue and it is here that the government should come out with strong policies such as cloud security policies. He added that under the second key component, which is the economy, it will be about e-commerce, and on this ministry said they will study how far SMEs have embraced e-commerce transformation. In terms of the third key component, which is the social system, Saifuddin said the team would look into issues on education, training, and talent development, including developing the creative industries, which would not be limited to just creating animations and video games. He said the task force is co-chaired by him and Science, Technology, and Innovation Ministry Khairi Jamaluddin, adding that officer-level discussions were ongoing and the first sitting would be held soon. On MDEC's work plan, he said the corporation is currently focusing on the implementation of programs under the Penjana following the COVID-19 pandemic. He said it was discussed that while SMEs and small business operators in the rural areas are trained on starting online businesses, local entrepreneurs should be encouraged to trade in the ASEAN region. Meanwhile, MDEC Chief Executive Officer Surina Shooks said to help those who lost their job following the COVID-19 pandemic, MDEC would launch a training program under the Global Online Workforce Initiative this August. She added that through this program, MDEC would provide guidance and training on earning income from serving international clients while working online. In other news, in conjunction with the 10th ASEAN Dengue Day yesterday, Malaysian Health Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Adham Baba said a total of 50,511 dengue cases and 88 fatalities were recorded in the country from January to June 13, adding the total cumulative cases was lower compared to 56,819 cases with 88 fatalities recorded on the same period last year. Dr. Adham said that, however, the past 8 weeks saw increasing trends in the average of 8% a week. And based on this trend, the ministry is expecting the second wave of dengue fever in early June until September. He also said that even though Malaysia is facing the COVID-19 pandemic, continuous effort must be given priority to combat dengue as the number of domestic cases are still high. Dr. Adham mentioned the preventive efforts will be enhanced with the involvement of health agents, known as the Communication for Behavioral Impact volunteers across Malaysia, who will be assisting the ministry to carry out the educational activities on dengue prevention through the new norm approach, adding that as of June 12, there were 2,954 teams with 25,531 volunteers nationwide. Dr. Adham extended his appreciation to all parties involved and hope that the effort would continue to ensure Malaysians could enjoy quality living free from dengue fever. The theme of the national level celebration of the ASEAN Dengue Day This year is 10 minutes to destroy Aedes. And the message behind the theme was to have the community allocate 10 minutes per week to clean their environment and destroy Aedes breeding grounds. ASEAN Dengue Day is celebrated on June 15 every year since 2011. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Ruby, for your updates there in Kuala Lumpur. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yes, Ruby Tinawin here, reporting live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. We live in interesting times.
Okay, let's head on over to Bangkok, Thailand, where the country is now in talks with the resumption on the resumption of international flights. Joining us live is Faye Barte. Hello, Faye.
Good afternoon, Alma, and good afternoon to all the viewers. Updates here in Thailand. The Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand, or the CAAT, will begin talks on the resumption of international services with airline representatives today, according to the Director General Chula Sukmanop. Priority, Alma, will be given to trips, with tourists from paired travel bubble countries being allowed in later. He said, adding that investors are financially ready to absorb costs related to the COVID-19 control measures such as quarantine program. And the CCAT has prolonged its ban on inbound and outbound commercial flights until June 30. And Alma, the government has yet to decide which areas will be open to international tourism under the travel bubble scheme, which will be implemented once the ban on tourism is lifted. And this information was from the Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha on Monday. According to the CCSA, or the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, it has directed all provinces to organize their tourist attractions to be in accordance with the relaxed measures. All places must categorize the space usage clearly by focusing on the safety of tourists and the public, avoiding congestions in the area, and keeping the place and surrounding areas clean. Another update, Alma. The Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has said that local elections are likely to be held this year, though he did not elaborate on which polls will take place first. The votes will be held when the Interior Ministry and the Election Commission, or the EC, are already ready, said the Prime Minister in response to reporters' questions about local elections. Last positive update here in Thailand. Once again, there has been no report of new cases of coronavirus here in Thailand, and the confirmed cases who are hospitalized are only 84 persons. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much for your good news from Thailand. Thank you, Faye. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Likewise, Alma. Thank you very much. And this is Faye Barte reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand Bureau. We live in interesting times.
ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
Patindi ng patindi at tuloy-tuloy ang pagpapakita ng galing ng ating mga TNG aspirants. Abangan ang kanilang performances sa pinakamalaking talent competition sa buong bansa, Tagisan ng Galing.
This program is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sandig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sandig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved NutriChocs, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa NutriChocs. Magnolia Chicken Templados. Delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Luncheon Meat. Pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda. Kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee. Masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, Matinco. R Square Variables Incorporated, Compizel Enterprises, Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, IMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
Skyway Stages 1 and 2, the elevated toll road system project, run from a section of the South Luzon Expressway from Alabang to Magallanes, Makati. The Skyway Stage 3 is an elevated expressway connecting the South Luzon Expressway through the existing Skyway Stages 1 and 2 to the North Luzon Expressway via Balintawak. Skyway Stage 4 is an 80-kilometer mixed elevated and at-grade toll road that will connect the existing Skyway system starting from the FTI section all the way to Bulacan.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved NutriChocs with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa NutriChocs.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
Countries must stay alert to the possibility of resurgence of COVID-19 cases. That is according to World Health Organization in a warning following reports of a new cluster in Beijing after more than 50 days without a case in that city. Take a look.
It took more than 2 months for the first 100,000 cases to be reported. For the past 2 weeks, more than 100,000 new cases have been reported almost every single day. Almost 75% of recent cases come from 10 countries, mostly in the Americas and South Asia. However, we also see increasing numbers of cases in Africa, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Even in countries that have demonstrated the ability to suppress transmission, countries must stay alert to the possibility of resurgence. Last week, China reported a new cluster of cases in Beijing after more than 50 days without a case in that city. More than 100 cases have now been confirmed. The origin and extent of the outbreak are being investigated.
I think it's important to note that every country is different, and certainly in China, when you spent over 50 days without having any significant local transmission, a cluster like this is a concern. and it needs to be investigated and controlled, and that's exactly what the Chinese authorities are doing. So in that sense, it is big news, but in the great scheme of things around the number of cases per day around the world, it's not. But it is a significant event. We'll track that like we've tracked other significant clusters.
We'll now go to Emma Farge from Reuters.
Yeah, we fully expect that our colleagues in China will share that information. It is very important, and they have
More than 8 million cases of novel coronavirus have been confirmed worldwide, with more than half in the United States and Europe, according to an AFP tally from official sources at 2200 GMT on Monday. At least 8 million, more than 8 million infections, including 435,176 deaths, mostly in Europe, have been registered since the pandemic first emerged in China late last year. Europe has 2,417,902 cases with 188,085 deaths. The U.S. has 2,110 or 2,110,182 cases and 116,081 deaths. The number of confirmed cases has doubled since May 10, and another 1 million new cases have been detected in the last 8 days. That likely represents only a fraction of the real number of infections, because most countries are only testing the most serious cases or only have limited testing capacity. An estimated 1.7 billion people, more than 20% of the world's population, risk becoming severely infected with COVID-19 due to underlying health problems such as obesity and heart disease, according to a study on Tuesday. The novel coronavirus, which has killed more than 420,000 people globally during the first wave of the pandemic, adversely affects patients suffering from comorbidities. A team of experts from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine analyzed global data sets of illnesses, including diabetes, lung disease, and HIV, used these to estimate how many people are at heightened risk of serious COVID-19 infection. And they found that 1 in 5 people have at least one underlying health problem, putting them in greater danger. While not all of those would go on to develop severe symptoms if infected, the researchers said around 4% of the global population, around 350 million, would likely get sick enough to require hospital treatment. As countries move out of lockdown, governments are looking for ways to protect the most vulnerable from a virus that is still circulating, according to Andrew Clark, who contributed to the study. He said this might involve advising people with underlying conditions to adopt social distancing measures appropriate to their level of risk. Mr. Clark said the findings could help governments make decisions on who receives a COVID-19 vaccine first when one becomes available. 180 stranded Filipinos from Peninsular Malaysia and Sabah went home through the efforts of the Philippine Embassy in Kuala Lumpur and the Department of Foreign Affairs in Manila, which chartered a Philippine Air Asia flight departing Kuala Lumpur via Kota Kinabalu. In an exclusive interview with Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia, Charles C. Jose, he said that the repatriated Filipinos were composed of OFWs and their dependents, tourists, as well as students who approached the embassy for assistance after being stranded due to the cancellation of flights and border closures following the pandemic. Let's listen in.
At kapon po, meron kaming repatriation operation. Natulungan po namin makauwi sa Pilipinas ang 180 natin mga kababayan na stranded dito sa Malaysia. It was a chartered flight, fully funded by the Philippine government. So lahat po ng mga sumakay nating kababayan ay wala akong nilabas na pambayad ng kanilang airfare. At ito nga pong repatriation na to ay lumipad from Kuala Lumpur to Kota Kinabalu sa Sabah at papatungo pong Maynila. Out of these 180 passengers, 81 po ay mga OFWs, 13 students at 82 tourists. So naging maayos naman po ang repatriation program, wala po naging aberya, kaya naging smooth po ang paglakbay po ng mga kababayan natin kahapon. Sa 5 kinonduct na namin na repatriation program, 2 po doon chartered, So, mula nung nagsimula yung NCO, marami pong lumalapit sa amin ng mga stranded po nating kababayan. So, meron po kaming database, no? Kagaya po kahapon, dahil chartered flight yan, funded by the government, so we had to prioritize, no? Inuuna ho namin yung mga senior citizens, yung mga bata ho, mga babae. Minsan kung sino yung mga nauna pa, mula nung una ay nag-request ng assistance sa pag-uwi. So we had to prioritize. But yung mga two other flights na kinonduct namin, it was a special commercial flight. So it was self-paying, no? So kung sino yung willing ho magbayad ng airfare, they are accommodated sa flight.
Ambassador, kumusta na po ba ngayon ng Malaysia? Are you in the recovery movement control order na po ba ngayon?
Opo, pumasok po sa latest phase ang Malaysia. Nasa recovery movement control order. Nagsimula po ito noong June 10 hanggang August 31 po ito. Under this RMCO, mas marami pong restrictions ang na-relax na. Almost all social, religious, business, and education activities ay pinapayagan na po mag-resume in stages but following strict SOPs. Ito pong mga SOPs, yung pong mga precautionary measures like observing hygiene, yung wearing of face mask, physical distancing, at iba pang mga measures pa po.
So what is the government doing po para wag po magkaroon ng second wave of infections like the chartered flight was fully funded by the Philippine government. Due to this, the Filipino repatriates, which includes OFWs who have lost their jobs, did not have to pay for their airfare. Prior to check-in, the repatriates were provided face masks by the embassy team, assisting them at the airport. Snack packs were also distributed by Post's OWA team. This is the embassy and DFA's second mass repatriation from Malaysia since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. It may be recalled that a government-funded Philippine Airlines chartered flight brought home 184 Filipinos on April 28. In addition, two special flights coordinated by the embassy carried 83 Filipinos home on April 5 and 104 on May 30. The embassy also facilitated the repatriation flight chartered by a Malaysian company for 180 of its Filipino employees on June 2. The embassy extended its thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia and other Malaysian government agencies concerned for facilitating the arrangements for the chartered flight. ASEAN and India reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthen and deepen their cooperation at the 20th ASEAN-India Joint Cooperation Committee meeting held via video conference yesterday. While noting the progress in the implementation of the ASEAN-India Plan of Action 2016 to 2020, both sides were encouraged to redouble efforts towards the Plan of Action's full and effective implementation until the end of this year. At the conference, both parties also shared their commitment to complete the development of the new Plan of Action for 2021 to 2025 to further strengthen their strategic partnership over the next 5 years. ASEAN and India exchanged views on ways and means to further improve the utilization of ASEAN-India Fund and ASEAN-India Green Fund, including possible improvement of procedures for utilization of the funds to finance joint projects and activities. A number of initiatives for enhancing cooperation in various areas of cooperation were also deliberated, such as in the areas of health, emergency and medicine, transnational crime, trade and investment, environment, education, sustainable development, energy, smart cities, connectivity, people-to-people contacts, as well as narrowing the development gap in ASEAN. Both sides discussed the utilization of the $1 billion line of credit provided by the Indian government to support infrastructure and digital connectivity projects between ASEAN and India. The 20th AIJCC meeting was co-chaired by the permanent representative of Thailand to ASEAN, Pasporn Sangasbana, and Ambassador of India to ASEAN, Rubrendra Tandon, and attended by members of the Committee of Permanent Representatives to ASEAN and their representatives, as well as the ASEAN Secretariat. Singapore will allow most businesses to reopen on Friday as the hard-hit city-state further eases its coronavirus restrictions. But potential super-spreader venues such as cinemas, bars, and nightclubs will stay closed despite infection rates remaining stable for the past 2 weeks, according to officials. Authorities have been gradually easing a partial lockdown imposed in early April that forced schools and most workplaces to close and people to stay home unless they were going out for a good reason. At the start of June, some were allowed to return to work and school as part of a 3-stage relaxation. From Friday, the vast majority of businesses can resume operation as long as safe distancing rules are in place, according to Lawrence Wong, a cabinet minister who's a key figure in Singapore's fight against the COVID-19 outbreak. Health Minister Gan Yim Yong said the number of infections in the community has remained stable and under control for the past 2 weeks, and the number of new cases in migrant workers' dorms has also declined. Social gatherings of up to 5 people will also be allowed from Friday, but individuals should stay 1 meter or 3 feet apart from each other, and people will be allowed to eat at restaurants, but live music and TV will not be allowed to be played as the noise can cause people to speak more loudly and spread the droplets from their mouths. Thailand has lifted its nationwide curfew after 21 consecutive days without COVID-19 cases. Officials have credited Thai's early adoption of wearing masks, ubiquitous in public since January, as well as its border closure, the shutting of many businesses, and the curfew for the retreat of the new virus that has infected 7.9, almost 8 million people worldwide and killed more than 430,000. Other establishments allowed to reopen on Monday were schools with less than 120 students, exhibition halls, music concerts, film productions, playgrounds, amusement parks, and sports competitions without spectators. Thailand will also open travel bubbles with countries which have comparably low coronavirus infections, according to officials, as the kingdom tries to claw back money for its battered tourism sector. The country closed its borders at the start of April, leading to millions of job losses across the tourism industry, which accounts for around 20% of GDP. The first stage of Thailand's travel bubbles plan will allow 1,000 foreign visitors per day into Thailand without need for the 14-day quarantine, according to Tourism Authority of Thailand Governor Yuttasak Supasorn. Now, he also said that the COVID-19 screening test will be mandatory before the visitors leave their countries and upon arriving in Thailand. The kingdom is expected to lose up to $47 billion this year in tourist revenues, according to an HSBC Global Research note published this week, based on arrivals dropping to 14 million from 40 million last year. The Civil Aviation Authority, which has said airports will remain closed until at least the end of June, is under intense pressure from hoteliers, conference organizers, and airliners or airlines to reopen Thai airspace. Thailand's economy has flatlined since the virus struck, hammering tourism and exports. Meanwhile, Brunei has entered the second phase of its coronavirus de-escalation plan, with restaurants and cafes in the country welcoming this as good news for their businesses. The public, however, was reminded by the Ministry of Health to comply with the regulations and directives related to the gradual reduction of the social distancing measures. In addition to the measures announced by the ministry, customers' temperature is also checked at the center's main entrance. If temperature exceeds 37.5, this is in mosques. If the temperature exceeds 37.5 degrees Celsius, they are denied entry. The Health Ministry, meanwhile, will conduct another round of COVID-19 antibody testing at select mosques this week to better understand the extent of community transmission in Brunei. The Health Ministry said the week-long antibody tests begin on Monday as part of expanded surveillance testing for the coronavirus. Now, the ministry also said the community antibody tests, which involve taking blood samples, will also help the government estimate the rate of population immunity towards the coronavirus. No additional cases have been recorded for 39 days now. In other news, an Indonesian military fighter jet plowed into a residential area in Sumatra, but the pilot ejected safely and there were no injuries on the ground, according to the Air Force. The one-seater Hawk 209 was returning from training maneuvers when the pilot reported engine problems, and he ejected from the British-built plane, which then crashed into a group of empty houses, according to officials. No one on the ground in Kampar Regency was hurt, according to Indonesian Air Force Chief of Staff Fajar Prasetyo. There were 3 jets returning from exercises this morning, and they were about to land when one of them crashed about 2 kilometers from the runway. He added an investigation would be carried out to determine the cause of the accident, according to Mr. Prasetyo. The incident comes in the same month that an Army helicopter crashed during a training exercise on Java Island, killing 4 soldiers and leaving 5 others injured. Meanwhile, Malacanang welcomed Japan's credit rating agency's decision to upgrade its rating on the Philippines from BBB+ to A-, with stable outlook amid fears of global economic downturn due to the pandemic. Let's listen in.
Abay, ang Japan Credit Rating Agency po, JCR, ay nagkaroon po ng upgrade sa credit rating ng Pilipinas to A- or 1 notch higher than BBB+. Ano pong ibig sabihin nito sa mga kay Juan de la Cruz? Ibig sabihin po nito, makakautang po tayo dahil naniniwala ang mga nagpapautang na tayo po ay magbabayad. At dahil mabuti nga po ang ating credit standing, ibig sabihin, mas mababa pong interest na mauutang natin. At yung uutangin natin, po pwede natin gamitin, hindi lang para sa ayuda, kundi para po sa ating mga responses sa COVID-19. This recognition by Japan's leading credit agency is an affirmation of the international community's faith in our economic strength and resilience amid the worst global downturn in nearly a century. We thank our economic team, lalong-lalo na po si Secretary Dominguez, for their initiatives, including reforms that helped us weather the pandemic and steer the economy towards the new normal.
In a statement, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, said the Japan-based debt rater noted the improved economic fundamentals of the Philippines that makes it more resilient to the pandemic, as well as the government's bid to implement reforms in the tax system, such as through the push for the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, or CREATE. The credit rater also cited as A+ to the country's rating the strength of the domestic banking system, which recorded a capital adequacy ratio, or CAR, a gauge of financial health, of 15%. The country's external debt balance, which currently stands at 22.2% of domestic output, and the strong gross international reserves, which posted a record high of $90.94 billion as of end April 2020, were also recognized. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.